Cooper Flagg is going to be a fantastic player at Duke. Cooper Flagg was all the talk over Monday and Tuesday, and a very good NBA prospect. I'm just not ready to say like he's going to be Wembanyama Part 2 when he gets to the league.
The top pick of the 2025 NBA draft is so good that look at how Kevin Durant reacted to playing him.
But for watching him on the sideline, he looked like a hell of a player.
Which is a huge cause for excitement because Cooper Flagg is going absolutely viral after dominating Team USA in a scrimmage. So before we get to the content, we are on the grind to 1 million subscribers. We are less than 30,000 subscribers away from getting to that goal. So do me a favor and check if you're subscribed and have our notifications on to help the channel grow. Now let me get all that out of the way. Cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? In a video from a few weeks ago, I discussed how the 2024 NBA draft wasn't looking like one of the greatest drafts in terms of depth. There wasn't a top overall pick. There wasn't a next coming of LeBron James that we get once every single 3 to 4 years. There wasn't a Victor Wembanyama. There wasn't a Zion Williamson. There wasn't an Anthony Davis. And it got a lot of comparisons to the 2013 NBA draft. As a matter of fact, I think I was botching the #1 overall pick's name, Zaccharie Risacher, until like 2 weeks before the NBA draft. And it's nothing against him, it's just it was a very weak NBA draft. Now, only time will tell if this analysis proves to be correct or not. This could ultimately turn out to be one of the deepest drafts we've ever seen. The 2011 NBA draft was also supposed to be a weak NBA draft, and it ended up being deeper than we all thought.
Phrasing. Shut up!
Hey. Knock it off. But thankfully, we have a class just around the corner that should make amends for this. A class that we could sit back, relax, and watch the media overhype as we dive into whether or not it really is worth the hype. In a way, it's as if the basketball gods have done their best to apologize for the 2024 class not being as hyped up by giving us an absolutely star-studded 2025 draft, which is actually already being predicted by some to have at least a half dozen future All-Stars and franchise players in it. For a class that contains a plethora of players being talked about as future All-Stars such as Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, and Dylan Harper, there's one other player that is somehow managing to create a gap between himself and the rest of the class. And if you haven't heard of or seen Duke commit Cooper Flagg play yet, well, that's why we made this video, to bring him to your attention, because he deserves your attention. Not only is the 17-year-old McDonald's All-American from Maine of all places being projected as the #1 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft, but he's actually already been competing against the best talent that the NBA has to offer. And what's even crazier than that is that he actually just kind of finished dominating them. If you don't believe me, just check out these highlights, as what he put on tape at a recent scrimmage with the USA Olympic team will do him more justice than pretty much anything I could say about him. I mean, just from this sequence here alone, you can see that he's already more than NBA ready, making plays against all defensive players like Drew Holiday and Bam Adebayo, and draining step-back threes in front of an outstretched Anthony Davis. Now, if what he did during recent scrimmages was not enough, hearing what some of the superstars on the Olympic team had to say about him should definitely change your mind. Of course, we mentioned Kevin Durant's opinion originally.
So I'm going to win up against him, the Freddies. But for watching him on the sideline, he looked like a hell of a player. Somebody's just going to only get better with more restraints. You know, 17 years old, coming in here playing like he's a vet almost. You know, no emotion. Just go out there doing his job and let's see us out.
And look, man, I know a lot of us like to flame Kevin Durant for some of the decisions he's made in terms of his career, but like him or hate him, KD can flat out ball. He's one of the greatest scorers of our generation, and for him to speak so highly of Cooper Flagg speaks volumes. And what's even better is that he wasn't the only one. Devin Booker also came out after the scrimmage and praised the attitude of Cooper Flagg, saying that you can already tell that he wants it. My personal favorite quote actually came from an unsuspected source. His USA Select teammate and last last year's 4th place NBA Rookie of the Year vote getter, and an individual that my Los Angeles Lakers passed on for Jalen Hood-Schifino, Chaim Hawkins Jr. of the Miami Heat. But pay attention to what Chaim Hawkins Jr. says about him. It should tell you everything you need to know about Cooper Flagg. To be able to do what he did, not even playing a college game, let alone an NBA game, there's no fear. It's relentless, and the thing that you can tell about him is that he just has a knack and the will to win. He doesn't need the ball, he just finds a way to do it, and the ball finds its way to him. That's something that you can't teach. He's just got a great feel for the game. This is a sentiment that is growing quickly on others, specifically the part about Flagg having that all-important X factor that all great franchise players tend to have. The only difference though is that while it took others a few years in the league to tap into it, Cooper Flagg already seems to have it before he's even turned 18. However, since the players are not going to be the one drafting Flagg, unless if it's LeBron James and the Lakers of course, some of us are wondering if NBA scouts feel the same way as the players do about the 6'9" future point forward trying to be the first player from Maine to leave such a huge imprint on the NBA. The results didn't take long either, as just shortly after his select team performance, NBA scouts began praising the 17-year-old for his abilities. One current yet anonymous NBA coach went as far as to call Flagg the best player on the entire select team, despite him being the only player on the roster that is not yet on an NBA roster. But the thing about all of this is that for those that have been paying attention to him for some time, none of this is really new or surprising, because dating back to his time at Montverde Academy in Florida, you know, the basketball powerhouse that produced such NBA legends like D'Angelo Russell and Ben Simmons, where Cooper Flagg would win Gatorade Player of the Year last year, Flagg has been putting on performances that have long been responsible for some of the rumors that are now circulating in NBA circles that some of the league's worst teams this year are going to seriously consider experimenting with a full-blown tank effort in order to draft him. And you literally can't blame them at all, because not only is he already gaining experience against some of the world's best players, but he's also proving to everybody in attendance to have the killer mentality that teams look for in franchise players. This is something he's shown in multiple situations, whether it was leading Montverde to a 30-0 record and winning the national title, or joining the Nike Elite Youth Basketball League, which is widely considered as one of the top youth basketball circuits in the country, where he continued his statistical dominance and put up absolutely ridiculous numbers of 27 points per game, along with 12 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks. Yeah, 5 blocks. So as you can see, there isn't much he can't do on the court. But what's really funny is that despite playing against such top competition, some people even went as far as to joke that the 16-year-old was playing in the wrong league, insinuating that the talent level wasn't good enough for him. And I have to say it's actually a fair assessment, seeing as in his league debut back when he was still but a sophomore, he went off for 52 points and 12 rebounds. Like I said before, none of what he is doing now, for those that have really been following him, is all that surprising. After all, you don't get touted as the next Larry Bird unless if you're anything short of spectacular. As we can see from his filling of his stat lines across the board, it doesn't seem like there's much that Flagg doesn't seem to be able to do. With a wingspan that's reported to be over 7 feet and his weight almost at 200 pounds, the fact that he has the handle he does and can bring up the ball up court and dribble into pull-up jump shots is scary enough. But what should really be striking even more fear into current NBA players is that we haven't even covered his biggest strength, and that is his basketball IQ, as well as his defense and generational rim protection, which we got a preview of in this year's McDonald's All-American game. I don't mean to say that he's the next coming of LeBron James or the next coming of Victor Wembanyama. It's just that a lot of times top picks like Cooper Flagg have a lot more holes in their game than he does, which means that scouts typically have a lot more to pick apart when the player begins to ascend the ranks. But the more we learn and see from Cooper Flagg, the more we see that he just doesn't really seem to have any of these huge holes.
What?
Knock it off, you know what I'm talking about. It's really an astonishing thing to witness, that for a kid who won't turn 18 until December, he's already such a force on both ends of the floor. As a matter of fact, if we're being completely honest about his potential greatness, the kid has been considered as a future primary rim protector since he was 15. With all these different pieces of evidence that he has put on tape, it is more than likely that he'll become a future perennial all-star. And while I agree with that, some people are even going overboard about him and saying that he already has Hall of Fame potential. With all of that said, the 2025 NBA draft will be here before we know it, which begs the question, where will Cooper Flagg go? And this is the part where it's going to be very interesting, because with the way the NBA draft lottery is set up, though it has its faults, tanking no longer automatically guarantees a team the first overall pick. You just asked the luckless Detroit Pistons, man. I feel so bad. Who have found out the hard way in several recent drafts. But this ambiguity of top picks is something that the NBA believes improves its overall product by not guaranteeing the team with the most losses the #1 overall pick. As for the running for Cooper Flagg, this ambiguity of which team will obtain the first pick means that the potential list of suitors for where he could end up after his year at Duke could become quite a long list. And while we're still fresh off of the NBA Finals and focusing on the upcoming Olympics and don't know exactly what the rest of the offseason or what the 2024 to 2025 season will have in store, there are a few teams that stick out above the rest as teams that could seriously use and wind up with the franchise-altering talent that Flagg is. The first team that comes to mind are those same 14-win Detroit Pistons. They can use anybody at this point. Poor Cade Cunningham, he just went through a 28-game losing streak, and a lot of sources have put the Pistons as the likely suitors. One of the other main teams that fans should have their eyes on to take him should be the Brooklyn Nets, whose recent trading of Mikal Bridges is a definite sign of a serious rebuild and could also put them in contention to take Flagg in next year's draft. Out of the rest of the lowest tier of likely bottom-dwelling teams next year, the Washington Wizards could be another team to watch for as a tanker, but actually Flagg's recent scrimmage against Team USA has thrown such a serious wrench into the plans of all these floundering organizations that many believe the Wizards need to legitimately begin considering an all-out tank in order for a mere chance to obtain his services. I don't know about you, but if I was the Wizards, I would do the same thing, even if it was only for the 14% opportunity to draft him that the worst 3 teams in the league get. He is seriously that good. But could you imagine if the Clippers have a bad season and it ends up being the #1 overall pick and the OKC Thunder swap picks with them to pair Cooper Flagg with Chet Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Or what if the Atlanta Hawks get the #1 overall pick once again and that pick goes to the San Antonio Spurs and they could pair Cooper Flagg with Wemby and maybe sign Chris Paul for an additional year? There's so many options for Cooper Flagg that are so exciting, and I can't wait to cover him this season. But if you think that's crazy, you should see what's going on with Kawhi Leonard and Team USA. We dropped a video on it the other day. The situation and drama is insane, and Kawhi Leonard's literally losing his mind. I'll leave a link to it in the end screen, and I'll catch you guys over there. And aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.